Well, no matter what way you look at it, the Lakers have a lot of work to do this summer. Following their addition of Luka Doncic, their team completely transformed, and while it did for the better in my opinion, especially from a long-term outlook, it did make it a bit more difficult for them in the short term. I mean, simply put, they didn't have the right team or right pieces around Luka Doncic to be able to compete for a championship immediately. Obviously, their lack of a center, a lack of a reliable center, and one that fits with Luka Doncic perfectly. Then on top of that, not having the right defense or right 3-and-D options around him, and simply not having the best well-rounded team that they need to compete at that high level. So with that in mind here, how do they go about making changes and potentially having a perfect offseason, quote unquote? Or then on top of that, can they actually do that without a LeBron pay cut? Now we've talked about what it might look like with a LeBron pay cut, which would be the ideal scenario for them and definitely would help them out, but is it actually possible without a LeBron pay cut? We'll talk about that and try to break it all down here, go through what it would take for them to get around that, and how they could still have a very good, if not a perfect offseason even without a LeBron pay cut, as it definitely is possible in my opinion. And well, without further ado, I think we gotta talk about what it would take for them to get to that point and what they won't have with a LeBron pay cut. And well, simply put, it's a whole lot about financial flexibility. Without a LeBron pay cut, they're likely not able to stay under the first apron, which will not allow them to use their non-taxpayer mid-level exception. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you're a first apron team, aka below the first apron, set at roughly $195 million, then you have access to the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, a contract worth roughly $14 million next season, being able to offer it up to a 4-year contract, but if you go over that first apron, you simply don't have it. And without a LeBron pay cut, the Lakers won't be able to use it, meaning that their next biggest contract they have to offer during free agency will be the taxpayer mid-level exception, worth a fraction of that, only worth roughly $5.6 million next season, only being able to offer it up to a 2-year contract, and definitely taking away a major asset for them during free agency. Or then on top of that, if you're over the first apron, which again they likely will be without a LeBron pay cut, then they don't have the ability to make a sign and trade, ruling out potential free agents like Miles Turner, Day'Ron Sharpe, or even a potential younger option like Jonathan Kuminga, even though they likely won't go that route. So to sum it all up here, without a LeBron pay cut, the Lakers do not have the ability to offer their non-taxpayer mid-level exception, the biggest contract then over the cap team has access to, are not allowed to make a sign and trade or very likely would not be able to, and then finally, during the buyout market, they cannot sign players that made over the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, yet another limiting factor for them. So with that in mind here, how do the Lakers get around that and have a perfect offseason even without a LeBron pay cut? Well, to start out, we gotta figure out their payroll, and that does happen to begin with their player and team options. Obviously, we got LeBron opting into that $52.6 million player option. Then on top of that, figuring out what to do with Dorian Finney-Smith's player option. He does have a player option worth roughly $15.3 million next season, and we're actually going to have him opt out of that to then rework his contract and give us a little bit more financial flexibility. Having him opt out, then rework that contract into probably something like a 3-year, $35 million contract, making slightly less money next season, roughly a $3 million pay cut, but giving him more long-term money in return. Then for our one and only team option, that being with Jordan Goodwin, we're simply going to opt into that and bring him back for some more backcourt depth and potentially a minimum contract trade piece if we would need it later on. So overall here, after the player option of LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith, or rather reworking that contract, then Jordan Goodwin, we're sitting at a payroll of roughly $191.5 million. But after the player and team options, step number 2 will be the NBA draft, and we do have a draft pick. No, not a first round draft pick unfortunately, but we do have the 55th overall draft pick. And the options we have with it are either number 1, to trade it, either trade it entirely and get rid of our draft pick, or then for option number 2, package it with cash and move up higher in the NBA draft, or then simply for option number 3, keep it and do not trade it, or do not package it for a different draft pick. And to make things simple here, we're going to keep it and take our selection with the 55th overall draft pick. And if you watched my last video, then you probably know who I'm going with, that being Amari Williams out of Kentucky. Does happen to be a 7-foot, 260-pound center that probably would be a pretty good fit for their team. is an athletic, rim-running vertical threat, would be a good fit with Luka Doncic in that regard. Then on top of that is a versatile defender, being both a pretty good rim protector and a pretty switchable big man. Then even apart from that is a very skilled big, does have some great passing and playmaking vision, a very unique characteristic for a big, and all around would be a pretty good draft pick at pick number 55 in my opinion. And if you want to know more about him, definitely check out that video. But after the NBA draft, that again being step number 2, then we're going to move into trades, that being step number 3. We're going to make our trades prior to free agency and pretty much know our payroll and the assets we have going into free agency with. So for trade number 1, as we are going to make 2 of them, we're going to target Daniel Gafford. And yes, the difficult part here would be once again negotiating with Nico Harrison. Not the fact that he won't trade with them, but simply the fact that Maverick fans don't like him and would probably not be happy with him making another trade with the Lakers. But this is kind of an ideal scenario, and we're going to overlook the fact that they might not be happy with him, and look more toward the fact that Daniel Gafford probably is on the trade block due to him wanting a starting role and to be paid like a quote-unquote starting center. So with that in mind here, we're going to say that they'll make another trade with the Lakers, and we're going to offer them a trade package of Gabe Vincent, Shake Milton, and their unprotected 2031 first-round draft pick. And well, you might not think that's fair, but why it is fair and why it's actually not a terrible offer is because of what I mentioned. Daniel Gafford being under an expiring contract, wanting a new contract and to be paid pretty well. Then on top of that, probably doesn't like the role on their team and might even directly ask to be traded, so they gotta figure out what they want to do with him. Turning down an unprotected first-round draft pick, let alone from a team like the Lakers who may or may not be good at that point, might not be a good idea for them, and definitely is not a bad trade package. So we're going to say they take that trade package, thus reuniting Luka Doncic with Daniel Gafford, giving him that great lob threat, giving the Lakers a massive upgrade at center, probably their long-term answer at center, with Gafford only being 26, about to be 27, and thus filling a massive hole on their team. So that's trade number 1 for us, definitely a beneficial trade and probably priority number 1. Could go with Daniel Gafford, could also be for a guy like Nick Claxton, but in this scenario, we are going to go with Daniel Gafford. But we're not done quite yet. As for trade number 2, we're going to head over to the Miami Heat, a team that openly is trying to make changes and might be willing to trade a guy like Andrew Wiggins. And well, it might be a bit controversial, but we are going to trade Rui Hachimura for him. The trade offer here would be Rui Hachimura, Maxi Kleber, and a first-round draft pick swap, potentially being their 2030 first-round draft pick swap. And why it makes sense to them? Simply put, the Lakers need a legit two-way wing player in their starting lineup and simply more two-way players in general, which Andrew Wiggins could give them. I mean, looking at their current starting lineup, neither one of Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, or Luka Doncic can take on a difficult matchup on defense. So without that, you're never going to be a great two-way team and never going to be a great defensive team, even with the addition of Daniel Gafford. Replacing Rui Hachimura with Andrew Wiggins, a guy that can match up 1 through 4, a guy that can be a primary defender, and even for a championship level team, like he proved back in 2022 with Golden State, I think that'll be a massive fit upgrade for their team and pretty much for their entire rotation. Yes, I will miss Rui Hachimura, is a very good 3-point shooter for them, does happen to be a decent fit, albeit not the perfect fit, but I think it would be worth it for Andrew Wiggins. Being able to add him without giving up a first-round draft pick, which again we simply don't have at this point, at least not a tradable first-round draft pick, being able to get him without giving up anything massive other than Rui Hachimura, only giving up an expiring contract with Maxi Kleber, not giving up a legit first-round draft pick, and getting a big-time fit upgrade in my opinion, I think it would be worth it, albeit kind of sad to see Hachimura go. And well, after that point, we then have a new starting lineup of Luka Doncic, maybe Austin Reeves, and could even move him to coming off the bench, then Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, and Daniel Gafford, which in my opinion is an upgrade and definitely from a fit standpoint. So after that point, then we move on to step 4, that being free agency. And the first step of step 4 is making use of our biggest contract, that being the taxpayer mid-level exception, not the non-taxpayer. Again, worth roughly $5.6 million, and it will restrict us from signing a big-time impact player, but we can probably get a decent role player or a decent bench player in general. But we gotta decide which player to go after and what position to go after. And at this point, after trading away Gabe Vincent and pretty much any backup ball handler for their team, it could either be a point guard or then for a backup center. And I definitely have a few options here that I'd like. Could potentially be a backup center like Luke Cornett, for example. I'd love the idea of taking him away from Boston. Or maybe a guy like Clint Capella or even Brook Lopez. Could go from any one of those three. Or could offer a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, for example. That being a more backup ball handler for their team, a pretty solid two-way player, and a guy that could fill a really good role for their team off the bench or maybe even in their starting lineup. That wouldn't be a terrible option either. And for our perfect scenario here, we're actually going to be able to get both of them. Yes, it might be a bit optimistic, but either signing Malcolm Brogdon to a taxpayer mid-level or potentially to a veteran minimum contract is not out of the realm of possibility in my opinion. With the argument here that he's been hurt so he can't get a bigger, better deal anywhere else, rather opting to sign more of a prove-it deal with a championship contender like their team, and would definitely give them a great off-the-bench piece or, like I said, potentially even a member of their starting lineup, is able to play at point guard, can play an off-the-ball role at shooting guard, even is a fairly solid defender, and definitely would give their team a massive upgrade off the bench, or simply for a two-way player in general. I'd really like the idea of signing Malcolm Brogdon to a team-friendly deal. So if that's to the vet minimum contract, then we have the ability to sign a guy like Luke Cornett to our taxpayer mid-level exception, which in my opinion would be a great pickup for their team, not only taking him away from Boston, which I would love to see. He's coming off a great playoff game for their team at the time when I'm making this video. Overall is a great rim protector, averaging roughly 2 blocks per 36 minutes this season, is a very good rebounder, grabbing over 10 of them per 36 minutes, and then on top of that, is a good lob threat. Is 7'2" with decent athletic ability, only 29 at this point, so would be worth a 1 to 2 year contract, and I think would be a great fit for their team off the bench. Now if you want a more realistic scenario, that would be giving the taxpayer mid-level to Malcolm Brogdon, then signing Jackson Hayes and bringing him back with their bird rights, making him their backup center instead, which would not be a bad option in my opinion. We might be a bit down on him, but he did play pretty well for their team, did show the ability to be a solid fit with Luka Doncic, can be a decent option either in their starting lineup if they need him for a temporary time and albeit not during the playoffs, but giving them solid 10 to 15 minutes per game, even all the way up to 20 minutes per game. So I wouldn't be mad at that route either. But ideally, we could sign both of Malcolm Brogdon and Luke Cornett or Clint Capella. That would be my ideal route following the trades for Daniel Gafford and for Andrew Wiggins. Then for our 14th spot, and this will be our final signing, we're going to keep it simple and simply bring back Markieff Morris. I mean, both Luka Doncic and LeBron love him, is a great locker room guy, does have a powerful voice that even guys like LeBron listen to, so we're going to keep it simple and keep the 15th spot open and just bring back Markieff Morris for now. Ending with a team and, like I said, a new starting lineup of Luka Doncic, like the Austin Reeves, Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, and Daniel Gafford, then having a new 6-man with Malcolm Brogdon, having year 2 of Dalton Connect, getting guys like Jared Vanderbilt back, Dorian Finney-Smith back for more team continuity and team chemistry, potentially bringing back Jackson Hayes if we can't get Luke Cornett or Clint Capella, then having Jordan Goodwin and Bronny James behind them for our 3rd string quote-unquote, both of which might be able to offer something this season and even for Bronny. So all around here, I think we've made a better fitting team, a much more versatile team, a much more defensive-minded team, and a team that's better equipped to compete this season in my opinion. So with all of that in mind here, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the team we created? How do you feel about the trades we made, the signings we made, and how we rebuilt their team even without a LeBron pay cut? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below and anything different you might do, or if you would keep it exactly the same. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.